Hey guys, welcome to another, just one of those kind of podcasts tonight. One of my Jackson's podcasts that I usually start up and I talk about things that are on my mind. So I watched a thing that came across my TikTok tonight that I was a little upset about, and I was a little strucken about, and it shows this girl following this other girl, and well, first of all, it's an African American woman. Yeah, she's an African American woman, and she's following a white girl who has her hair in Viking braids. Yeah, and then she literally grabs the girl's hair and like swings her around by it and says that she's not allowed. So the African American girl said that the white girl was not allowed to have dreads in her hair because that's not a part of their culture. That's her trying to look like basically she was looking like she was trying to be black, is what she was trying to do. This white girl was trying to be black. But the one thing that a lot of people don't quite understand is that when girls have braids in their hair, especially if it's Viking braids, if they have Viking braids in their hair, they can have Viking braids. They can have dreads in their hair if they want them because they're braids. And then she had ruined symbols. Yeah, she had ruined symbols on the end of her braids. They had ruined symbols in the braids. So, to be 100% honest with you, that's how I feel sometimes, is because I'm wondering if someone's going to come up to me and tell me, well, why do you have braids in your hair? And I'm going to be like, well, I have Viking braids in my hair. I'm not trying to be different than anybody else. I'm basically being myself. I'm basically doing something that I want to do for myself. And if I want to put braids in my hair, it's because I'm putting Viking braids in my hair and I'm doing something that's in my heritage, or that's doing something that I follow, which is Norse mythology, which is Viking history. So I follow the Norse. So I put braids in my hair, and because I really and truly would like to have long hair again, because I had long hair and, I got it cut off, and I wasn't too happy about getting it cut off, so, yeah. For y'all that don't know the story, I don't know where the hell I was at. Someplace outside of, like, Painesville. Excuse me. I'm choking on a fucking Tums. Isn't that just how it always is? So, I was someplace outside of Rockville, Painesville, or even somewhere between Wilmer and somewhere. I was hanging out at this bar, and I was supposed to meet up with two stupid friends that used to work for Trobeck's bus service. Yeah. And these two people, they were supposed to be four or five people, and they ended up standing me up. So they didn't hang out with me. So I went to this bar by myself. And So I'm wearing a kilt and my shirt that says, "The last guy who called this a skirt, I damn near killed them." So I was wearing a shirt that said that. I had my hair in a long frickin' braid. My hair was brown. you know, it was before I did the Santa Claus thing, but I had my hair in a long braid. I had my hair in like to my shoulders. And I had it in a Viking braid. I had it in a Viking braid. My friend did it for me. My friend Tristan did it for me, who's my barber. Yeah, he did it for me. So I went out. Yeah, I went out and, you know, I went to this bar to meet up with some friends. I don't know what bar it was. I don't know where it was, but there were these guys. They were from Iowa. And they were bikers. There were 7 of them. They were from Iowa. They were at this bar. And I walked by them. And they walked by these guys. And they said, "Oh, we don't like your kind here." And I said, "What do you mean your kind? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you getting at?" And they're like, "Well, we don't like your kind here." And I said, "Well, I'm going to go to the bathroom and then I'm going to leave so you guys don't have to worry about me anymore because I'm leaving. You know, I'm going home because I'm going to go back to St. Cloud and I'm going to be left alone. Because, you know, I'm having one of those nights and I don't really feel like being fucked with right now, so could you guys kind of leave me alone?" And so I went to the bathroom, and I don't know if this guy was a prospect. He had on his jacket, he had prospect on the top of his jacket. It was in October. It was one of those hot days in October, and I was at a place where like these bikers were passing through. They were staying the night because they were driving through Iowa. I don't know what they were doing. But so they were in this bar, and I don't even know where I was. It was somewhere around Rockville, somewhere around Paynesville, or something around that kind of area. But I know it was a far away from St. Cloud. Yeah, it was far away from St. Cloud. And, you know, they told me I met these people. So these people from work, when I worked at Trobex, they were kind of like cool people, and they were like, "Hey, why don't you meet us at this bar?" And I'm like, "Okay." And I just was like, whatever. And I didn't really know what to wear. So I wore a kilt. I wore my shirt that had, it said Stillwater, or it said Stillwater Kilts on it. The last guy who called it a skirt damn near killed him. So I had that shirt on. And I wore it without any question, no problem, whatever, you know. And I went to the bathroom and then I came back. And so when I was coming back, this guy jumps up, grabs my ponytail, and he says, "We don't like your kind here, faggot." And he pulls my head back, and then he grabbed my ponytail, and he cut my ponytail off. So what ended up happening was he ended up cutting my neck. He cut the back of my neck in a big, huge, like 2.5 inch gouge. He gouged the back of my neck. So I put my hand like this, and I saw blood. So then I turned around and I punched the dude who cut me right in the face. I punched him right in the eye, and he went, you know, he didn't go flying back about, you know, a couple of feet. He ended up just getting hit in the face and then dropped like a sack of potatoes. Like, I mean, he just literally got dropped. And I grabbed my shit and I got the hell out of the bar. Because I didn't want to sit there and fuck around and, you know, and deal with all the bullshit. So I get home, and this happened about probably 10 o'clock, 10:30, you know, and I get home, and I hear a knock on so we have an intercom system in my apartment, and I hear this ringing sound, and I hit the talk button, and I said, "Hello," and the guy's like, "Yeah, this is St. Cloud PD. Is there a Jack Craning or a Jonathan Craning around?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll buzz you in." I buzzed him in, and then I met him in the hallway of my apartment. And I said, "Yeah, what's this about?" And they're like, "Well, you tell me." And I said, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "What happened at this bar?" And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what happened at this bar. I went to the bathroom. This guy said that he didn't like my kind, and I don't know what that meant, but then when I came back from the bathroom, he said, I don't like your kind, pulled my ponytail, and he called me a faggot, and he cut my ponytail off because I was wearing a kilt. And I had my hair in a Viking braid, and he cut my ponytail off. And it hit the ground after I punched the dude in the face, and he dropped to the ground like a sack of potatoes. I got the fuck out of the bar, got in my car, and went home. And then the cops came to my house because I had left my ID and my credit card at the bar to start up a tab. Never going to do that ever again. So I ended up going home and rubbing alcohol and isopropyl or whatever the hell it is on my cut, and trying to cauterize the wound and everything else. And I put one of these big huge gauze bandages on my neck, and the officer came to my house and I showed him what happened. So he said to me, well, that changes everything, because basically we had an assault charge on you, but now it was self-defense. So, because you turned around and you punched the guy in your face after he cut your ponytail off, and he cut you with a knife. So now it's assault with a weapon. The reason why I never told anybody about this is because, one, I didn't know what to do. I just moved to St. Cloud, and I was only living there for about a month. So I didn't really want a record on my shit, because I was driving school bus. Yeah, I was driving school bus, and I was, trying to work back for groom transportation. So I didn't do anything. So I went back to I went to the bar. We drove, so I left my car at my house. The police officers drove me back to the bar, wherever we were. I can't remember where the hell we were. And it was somewhere between Rockville and Painesville. It was somewhere in that little area. There was a bar, a little small town, out in the middle of nowhere. I have no idea. I don't even know where the hell this place was. But, so I didn't even know where this place was. So the cops and I were talking on the way back to this bar, because the cops from the town that we were in, I think it was St. Michael or something like that. But so we were at this. There was a biker bar, and so we were there, and so the cops, the police in the town had those bikers. They had them at the bar. They kept them at the bar, and they kept them in check. And I asked the officer, I said, well, if there's a ponytail laying on the floor, that's obviously my ponytail. And the officer was like, is there a ponytail laying on the ground? And sure as shit, there was a ponytail laying on the ground that was damn near about, I'd say, about maybe 2 to 3 feet long, and it was in a Viking braid, and that was my ponytail. Yeah, that was my ponytail laying on the ground. So, yeah, that was my ponytail laying on the ground. And so they put that in a evidence bag, and they put it in there and everything else. And we went back to the bar. And we sat there, and I asked the guy, after I found out how big of a shiner I put on his face, I asked him why he did it. Why he, grabbed my ponytail, or why he wanted to be a dick and try to mess with the biggest guy in the bar. Well, the thing is that he was a prospect that he was trying to show off. And after he got dropped, and I got the hell out of the bar, nobody really seemed like they wanted to go after me because, there was 7 of them, and I took out 1 of them. And I just kind of shoved him out of the way and got the hell out of the bar and left. So the thing is that, you know, but I don't understand in the first place why everybody has something against somebody for no apparent fucking reason. Like, people want to fuck around and find out. That's what they want to do. So, this guy basically comes up to me, you know, in the bar and messes with me and doesn't know anything about me and basically just picks the wrong dude to mess with, you know? Yeah, picks the wrong dude to mess with at the bar. Yeah, that's what he did. Picked the wrong guy to mess with at the bar. And that was when my hair was brown. Yeah, my hair was brown. It was long. It was like Thor's hair from, you know, it was like Thor's hair. And then when he cut it off in Ragnarok, that's exactly what it was like. I mean, after I had the short hair and everything else, that was kind of the style that I used to always have in my family, was that high and tight kind of shit haircut. I always loved my long hair. Yes. There was times that I wanted to shave my head. But then I realized that I wanted to have long hair. But you want to know why I didn't want to have long hair? Because my dad used to call me a hippie if you had long hair, or you were like, you know, you were gay if you had long hair back in the day. Yes, you were a faggot. That's exactly what people used to say when I had long hair. They used to always sit there and they say, oh, you're a long-haired faggot hippie type. That's what you are. Now, the words now, you can't say that anymore. You can't talk like that anymore because, you know, things have changed over the years. And I understand and I respect that. I understand and I respect anybody who wants to do whatever they want to do. But going back to the video that I was watching, this white girl, she had braids in her hair, and they were Viking braids. They were just like mine. Yeah, they were just like my braids that I have in my hair now. But mine are Viking braids. Mine are Viking braids, and they're extensions, because I'm trying to get my hair back to the way I had when I had long hair. But now that my hair is a white color, and now it's changing, this is going to be perfect for me now that I'm starting to play Santa Claus's cousin again and getting ready to play Santa Claus's cousin at Christmas time. So we're going to put yarn and thread into my braids so that we can get color into them, which I think is going to be cool, because I would like to see the white and color mixed in, because, you know, I play KamoKlauZ, so I'm a lot different now. But I'm going to have it in my beard now, and I'm going to have it in my hair. But the one thing that made me so upset was this African American girl grabbed this white girl because she had braids in her hair, and she beat the crap out of her for having braids in her hair. But why? Why did she touch her? Why did she not leave her alone? And why did she cause a ruckus? Because she wanted to start something with a girl that was just doing a trend, which could be what was started a hell of a long time ago, before African American people were around. Yeah, the Vikings started it, and that was in the 600s. Yeah, that was like 600s or that was way before, Christ. That was before Christ, or after Christ, or after death, or whatever. But I mean, it was back in like the Viking times, And if you look up, back when the Vikings were around, they had braids. Yes, Vikings had braids. Vikings had braids before they had horns on their helmets. So let's just get that friggin' out of the box. So this girl had Viking braids in her hair, and then she gets the crap kicked out of her by an African American girl because she had braids in her hair, which I didn't really find cool. I didn't really like that, but I wasn't there. I just saw the video. It just came up on my Twitter. Now, Twitter, I don't know what the hell is up with Twitter, but Twitter has some weird stuff on there. And all social media is starting to get really weird. But I still use like Facebook and Instagram. I use Twitter and I use all kinds of stuff. Well, Twitter I don't really go on much. Instagram and Facebook I kind of do because they're like the only one that seems like, like it doesn't really have a lot of things to do with my page, but it's kind of weird. But I'm not really on social media much. What I'm on is I'm on YouTube and I'm doing live videos like I do now because I like doing live videos. I like talking about, things that happen in the world right now, and I enjoy it and I love doing it. The only reason why I'm doing this podcast like this is because, one, it's on a hands-free device, and you guys watch my my podcast all the other dang time, so I figured why not just drive down the road and just see what's going on in the world of life. But I'm not even on the phone. I don't touch the cell phone. I don't do anything with it. It's hands-free. So I'm just I'm basically just talking inside this cab by myself because nobody else is in here. This is me talking about what I saw on social media today. But I've also had people comment on my hair saying, dude, your hair's awesome, your braids are cool, you look really badass, are you a Viking? And I'm like, I've done a DNA test on this 23andMe one time, and it said something about how I was Viking and I had Scandinavian roots or something like that, but I think it was wrong. I don't know, because I have no idea. But the thing is I like studying Norse mythology. I like, doing all the things Viking. Every time I go to the Renaissance Festival, the Viking encampment is my favorite place. So I have people tell me that I look like a Viking. So, you know what? I'm not going to fight it. I like that. I'd rather look like a Viking than a piece of shit. Because a lot of people tell me I look like a piece of shit too. A lot of people tell me that I'm a douchebag. A lot of people tell me that I'm a moron and that I shouldn't do some of the things that I do. Well, the reason why I am the way I am is because I am me. Like I said, I play a non-traditional Santa Claus called KamoKlauZ. I've been doing that for 13 years, and I am who I am. And I like being who I am. I like being me. So I have fun being me, okay? And, I don't have any problem being me. I love being me. I love being who I am. And I shouldn't be punished for being me. I should be able to be me. I should be able to do what I want to do as me, because I'm being myself. I don't talk politics much because I don't really care that much about politics. I don't care that much about religion because, I just take it one day at a time. I go to work and, and date or something. I don't know. I'd like to find Mrs. Claus, but the thing is that, there's not really many people out there who are serious about who don't want to date guys like me. It's just really sad. So I'm not being myself. It's actually the thing that I've realized to myself is that, I've learned a lot of things from watching. They just don't like each other. They just don't like each other. They just don't get along, basically. They just don't get along. So if the two people in a relationship both look at each other and say, well, hey, nobody was at fault, and nobody was to blame, then both of you agreed on something in your life that you weren't compatible with each other. And that's perfectly fine. Now, but if the person continues to keep on saying that they just don't feel like it was, like they were the one who was at fault, or they were the one that fucked up all the time, it's because they're trying to make you realize to themselves that they were wrong, and so that they want you to accept it so that you stop talking about it. But sometimes people don't do that. They don't just accept it right away. They just want to let it keep going. So most of the time in relationships, it can be where both parties just don't need to be with each other because they weren't compatible with each other. But see, I was with my wife for 10 years, and I did some things. I did some things in my past. And, and we all have problems in our past that we work out enough. But there are stages in a relationship. There are stages in a relationship that you go through. And in the beginning, the first stage, the beginning of the relationship is where, every time that you are together, you just love each other. You want to be with each other. And that usually lasts for about 3 to 7 months, or maybe a year, or a year to 5 years, depending on how well the relationship goes, how mature the people are, how they grow with each other, how they grow with each other. Because in a relationship, you never want to go to bed angry at each other. You always want to go to bed loving each other. You want to go to bed holding each other every night, not sleeping with a body pillow between you, or one sleeping on the couch and one sleeping in the bed. No, you never want a relationship where people go to bed angry at each other. You don't want to always throw stuff at each other. You don't want to fight. You don't want to always... You want to go to bed laughing at each other. You want to go to bed feeling positive about each other. You don't want to go to bed feeling negative, okay? You don't want to go to bed feeling negative. You don't want to go to bed feeling like you hate the person so much that you can't see them in your life anymore. You see them gone. So, okay. And then in stage two is the one where you work on each other, but you work things out. Yes, if you're jealous and you hate the way that your man does things, or he gets text messages, or something pops up on his Facebook page, or on his Instagram page, or on his Twitter page, and something pops up, you talk to him about it. You don't instantaneously just get pissed off at him and snap at him like he's the worst person in the world. Because sometimes social media posts things on people's page and post things on people's stuff without you even knowing that you did it. Because I just noticed that tonight on Twitter, I follow things that I don't even give a shit about. Yeah. And I don't even have any control over my own damn Twitter page, because I follow this thing. It was called Clown something, and it was like making fun of people who are in they're people. One of the things that it said is, tell me that you voted for Kamala Harris, and don't say that you voted for Kamala Harris. And then it shows this guy who's basically a transgender, in a bodysuit. And I'm like, I never even liked any of that kind of stuff. So I never even did anything like that. And here I liked it. I was a part of the group, and I was a part of the thing. But I've never been on Twitter at all. I haven't been on Twitter for a long time. But there's things on Twitter that I follow or that I like, but I'm not even part of the group. I don't even follow the page. Yeah. I guess it was something that was added on for something, but I have no idea. So, and the thing is I don't really have anything on there that I follow, because I don't really use Twitter that much, or X. I don't use Twitter or X that much because I don't really like the page. I don't really like anything that has to do with it. And 90% of the time, if I follow something, like on my Instagram, I have nothing but boner pill ads. Yeah, like boner pills and like stuff for bodybuilding. And I always get these fake profiles of girls that have, massive boobs that are AI created women. And I don't even know where they come from, because I don't even like the stuff. I play a Santa Claus, for God's sakes, and I block that stuff, and I have all of the stuff. I'm not interested in it. I delete it, and I get rid of it because I'm not interested in that shit. No, I'm not. I'm interested in working out, and I'm interested in getting myself fit. I'm also interested in cars, and I'm interested in being Santa Claus or watching hockey and lacrosse and rugby. So that's what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in boner pills, and I'm not interested in that kind of stuff. I don't care about that kind of stuff. So I don't know why the hell that has to come up on my wall or on my feed, because that's not who I am. I don't like that kind of stuff. I never really did. I mean, back in the day when I was single and alone, yeah. I mean, I was single and alone, and I was, trying to, work myself to finding my life, but I guess, some things like that magically pop up on people's Facebook page when you're associated with other people who do that kind of shit. That's why one thing, I don't like social media now, because social media is turning out to be a giant fucking fest of bullshit towards people and freedom of speech, because nobody has any more freedom anymore. No. They don't have freedom of speech on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter anymore, because nobody really follows what they follow. Yeah, they're just looking for things to throw on your stuff for ads and for, for things that you like. So, like, if a girl is a car model and you like are a part of a group of car clubs, then all of a sudden you're going to have all these different things come up where these models are doing other things like OnlyFans and all this other shit, and they do that kind of stuff based on your preferences of your Facebook page, or take stuff that you it all over the place, because like I started by like 8,000 WRC pictures or posts and stuff, and then I start following it and I like it, because that's the kind of shit that I like. But then when all of a sudden the video stops, I get this ad in the middle that's for boner pills, and it's telling me if I want to have a bigger penis in 4 to 7 days, I gotta take these fucking gummies, which I didn't even click on it. It just came up on the video, because 90% of the time social media is nothing but boner pills and people trying to make their pencil bigger and make their junk bigger, and they're doing all these stupid things like telling you to put sea salt under your tongue, or to, take these pills, and to buy this stuff called Shilajit and ashwagandha, and to do all this other stuff. But, some other stuff you can go and buy it from Walmart, and it's force factor, and it's a multivitamin, and you take the multivitamin and you basically have a couple smoothies every once in a while, and you change your diet. You start drinking more water and less soda, and you start doing a lot, of other things, which I started doing. I stopped drinking soda. Yeah, I stopped drinking soda, but now all of a sudden I was getting fatigued and stuff because I didn't have sugar in my diet. I didn't have any sugar. So I was taking caffeine like tabs. I bought these things called Berserker tabs. And what these things are is they're 200 milligrams or 250 milligrams of caffeine is what they are. You put one under your lip like you do, like you're doing a dip. Like you're putting you're putting a nicotine pouch under your lip. And basically, this thing is supposed to have caffeine in it, and it's supposed to keep you awake, which they do help. I use them to get through my day here at work, and I use them all the time, and I like them, and they're fun, and they're interesting. They're cool. And I take them, and I go through a day, usually having about 2 of them a day, and that's enough caffeine for about 500 milligrams of caffeine, which is fine. But the only time, and then I started drinking soda again, because basically when you go to places and you buy food, sometimes you can't, when you drink something, you want a little bit of sugar every once in a while. And the Mountain Dew Zero Sugar, that tastes like Mountain Dew, and it still has, it still tastes like a soda, and but it doesn't have the high sugar content in it, and it's supposed to be pretty good for you. Well, I don't know. I mean, I've been back and forth on soda on Mountain Dew because I actually like Mountain Dew. I love Mountain Dew, and it's really good, but sometimes it's not good for you. So I'm actually going back to starting to drink water again, and more soda, or more milk. Yeah, more milk. So I drink a lot of milk, and I drink a lot of, chocolate milk and water. So I'm back to that. But I've weighed myself the other day, and I eat one to 2 meals a day. Yeah. And other times I'm fasting, and I'm drinking water, and I only eat when I get hungry. So like, when my tummy's actually growling to the point where literally I'm saying, oh, I'm so hungry, I, sometimes don't eat. But I do. I'll go get something to eat. And usually that consists of, 2 to 3 things. Sometimes they're like 2 burgers, that are just 1 patty burgers from, Wendy's, and then a 10-piece chicken nugget. And that's what I have. I have, that. But, I know I shouldn't be doing that because that's bad for you too. So, so I should move on to maybe Chick-fil-A and getting their grilled chicken sandwiches that they have, off the grill, but I don't know, because you never know what you can eat. And then one day I went to Quick Trip, and they had grapes, and they had apples in these little cups, and I started grabbing these grapes and apples, and I started eating those and drinking water, and this police officer he was like, oh, the wife is trying to keep you slim, huh? And I said, no, I don't have a wife. She divorced me, and we're going through a divorce now, and I'm just starting to eat grapes and apples and watermelon on my own because, I kind of like having watermelon and water and, and stuff like that. And the cop kind of looked at me and was like, well, I'm sorry to hear that. And I'm like, well, you didn't know. And the cop was like, so does it help you? And I'm like, well, it's something to chew on because, when you're driving all the time, you don't actually, eat, much. You basically just wait till you're hungry and then you eat when you can. But who ever has time to ever make anything at home? Like the other day, I made fried bread dough. And the way that my grandma used to make it was she used to pour oil in a pan. And they have it fry bread is what they used to call it. And you could put eggs on top of it with cheese. And you could do, eggs, cheese, and bacon. And eggs are really good for you. I've been told that eggs are really good for you. Even if you just have them, just by cracking an egg and just putting it on a fry pan and having it that way, not scrambling it up and throwing salt on it or anything, just having a fried egg. Putting a fried egg with bacon, cheese on top of fry bread. That's a good thing to have. So I did the fry bread in the air fryer, and I put butter on it, and I put a little sugar on it, cinnamon and sugar on it. And yeah, that was really good. We used to call them frogs. Yeah, what we used to call them was frogs. And the way you do it is you put the oil in the pan, turn the pan on, you let it go, and then you get one side brown and crisp, and then you flip the sucker over, and then you let it get brown and crisp, and then you take it out, and basically you put butter on it, and then put cinnamon and sugar on it, or sugar on it. And, you make these big ass, things the size of the pan, and it's basically like, a funnel cake is kind of what it's like. So you make one of those. And, you make a funnel cake is what you make. And, I had fun with that. Yeah, I had fun with that. And, but when I made them, I used the air fryer, and what happened was they turned out all right, but they didn't taste the same. It didn't taste the same. It was like trying something new for the first time. And I told my mom, I was like, I tried it, and I thought it was cool, but I'm going to go back to making them the old-fashioned way by throwing the damn oil in a pan and turning it on and letting it, get hot, and then, flipping the things over inside of a thing and letting them bubble up and turn it into, fried bread dough like a frog or whatever. And I think I'm going to do it that way. And there ain't nothing wrong with doing it that way. But I just don't. I hate when my fat roll does that when it's caught in my pants. But the thing is that, like, I know that I've always sat here and I've always said to myself that I want to do something for my body. I want to lose weight. I want to get better. I want to feel better and everything else. But when I go to the doctor's office and they do my blood pressure and my blood pressure is low, when it's like 128 over over 70 or I don't know what the hell even the perfect thing is supposed to be, but the lady always says, "Oh, you're normal." And I'm like, well, and she says, "Oh, you're normal." And I'm like, okay, yeah, so thank you, I'm normal. And I'm like, what are you expecting me to walk in here and be like Dead Man Walking because I'm like a guy who looks like a beached whale? I mean, so one of the things that every time I go to a doctor's office, I'm always judged when I walk through the door. They see this big, heavy-set guy who's like 6'5", almost 6 feet tall, or they almost see this guy who's 6'6", 6'5" or whatever, 6'4", 6'5". They look at me and they think, oh my God, dead man walking. That's what they always think. And then when they freaking do my blood pressure and they do all my vitals and everything, they're like, holy shit, you're fine. Yeah. And they go, so what's your problem? And I said, you want to know what my problem is? I'm a depressed fat ass who can't fucking realize to himself that he matters to anybody, because nobody has ever made me feel like I matter. Nobody makes me feel like I care. Everybody makes me feel like I'm down. Okay? And that's what it feels like. But when I'm in my happy mood, when people love me and people tell me that I'm a good guy and everything, dude, I'm one of the happiest people in the world. That's why I love my job so much, is because I meet wonderful people who make me feel good about myself. Yeah. That's what I love about working for Groom Transportation, is I meet wonderful people who are so nice that make you feel like they would invite you to your home, or to their home, until they really got to know who you are, and then, basically kicks you out in the middle of dinner. But, but here's the thing. So, I'm trying to basically be a guy who lives his life every day and is happy. And I met a guy today on the van. This guy, basically anything that you ever put on your cell phone, like if you text somebody, or if you share pictures, or you share PDF files and stuff like that, this guy, if it goes into a court-related thing, this guy basically is the one that reads these things out. I'm not going to tell you who his name is, but this guy, he basically reads your text messages, and he makes sure that there's no legality and everything behind it. I mean, he's the one that, is kind of like, but he does it for AT&T. I don't know, yeah, he does it for AT&T. That's all I know. That's all the further I know. I don't know his name. Never told me his name, but whatever. And so, yeah, he does this kind of stuff, and that's all the further I got with this guy. But so the thing is that basically me telling you how my everyday life is, or telling you how I feel, or telling you what's on my mind, because I go through it every day. And I love sharing it, but nobody really ever watches any of these things. I mean, there's probably 2 or 3 people who will watch it, and they'll probably go, oh, Jack's lunatic that, is trying to get friends to like him. Or there's people on Twitch who sit there and be like, dude, if you want free views, or you want something to, you want something to get people to watch you, then go to this website and stop going on them times. And there are girls on Twitch, they're licking a microphone. That's what they're doing. Yes. They're licking a microphone, or they're laying in a pool in a bikini trying to get views. There are things called cheddar bait, and there are things that you can go to these kind of sites where you can fire up a webcam and you can sit in front of your house and you can get some guy named Cletus, or some guy named Jethro, or some guy wearing glasses who's living in his mom and dad's basement, with a thing of lube, and he's basically just polishing off his meat stick down in the basement to some chick who he just is having an obsession about. 95% of men in this world who are lonely, who are lonely and who are living by themselves, they do it. They jerk off their crap to porn, or do their kind of stuff, and whatever, they do it because they're alone. They're trying to release stress and everything else. But you know what? If you would pick up a book and read a book, or you would think about doing something else like working out and stuff like that, or just, not watching it, maybe it would change your perspective on life. You might think about something. Anytime that you get a sexual desire to do that kind of stuff, maybe you should think about something different. But I know everywhere you turn around, there is sex. Sex sells, okay? So I've been going through and I've been watching stuff on Hulu, Like I've been watching old TV shows that were popular back in the day, like Married with Children. And The Jersey Shore and everything else. But the one thing that you have to understand is I've learned how to watch these shows and not watch the show because or whoever the hell was on the show has their junk hanging out or has their boobs hanging out. So the thing is that this stuff is censored, so you basically have been kind of depressed on the show because sometimes they're going out there to these clubs not to just find girls that they just want to bring home that are DTF, that are down to fuck, but they're actually bringing home girls that they really feel sensitive about sometimes. And, and you learn into talking to girls. And basically, girls don't like a guy who's a loser or who talks down about themselves. They like somebody who's confident in themselves. They like somebody who is not afraid to, talk about themselves. Now me, I know that I'm not going to ever have a six-pack and a perfect body because the thing is I'm a power lifter. I'm a person who lifts heavy objects, and doesn't have a six-pack because I don't want a six-pack. I don't work my abs. No, I don't. The thing is I use my stomach to basically rest things on when I put the bar halfway and I clean and I put it on top of my gut so that I can take it and lift it with my arms. Yeah. So that's what I do, is I do powerlifting stuff. I always lift heavy weights and, do it as much as I possibly can, in a fashionably great manner. Yeah. So that's what, guys do. And real powerlifters, real guys that are power stomachs or they have really big guts. Yes, but they're defined anywhere. Yeah. Guys have a really solid tummy. Yeah. But also, you're able to lift things with no problem over your head. Like lift 70 to 80, 90 pounds over your shoulder. Because when I worked for MC Dean, I used to lift conduit. I used to take conduit and I used to carry it down. But what I used to do was I used to take electric or take duct tape. I always had a thing of duct tape in my pocket, on my belt. And what I would do is I would put 5 rolls of conduit together, and I'd stack it up, and then I'd throw it over my shoulder, and I would carry 50 to 40 pieces of conduit down to the construction site. And they were like, dude, they could, use a forklift or something for that. And I was like, by the time we get the goddamn forklift down there and everything else, it'll be quitting time. And they used to look at me like I was stupid or something. They would always, tell me I was dumb or something because I was trying to do shit, but I was exercising, bro. I was carrying freaking conduit down to the freaking thing. They asked how many pieces they need. And I'm like, okay, well, I need about, this many pieces of conduit. I'd throw it over my shoulder and carry it down there. And I'd balance it on my shoulder, and I'd get it down there. And then 3 days later, they'd throw me off the job because they would say that I was working, too hard. Well, 90% of the time I wasn't working hard enough is what they were always saying. So I don't know what the fuck MC Dean wanted me to do, but for some damn reason I was never good enough to be an employee to work there because I was always getting kicked off of Mickey Dent's jobs because he didn't like the way I was doing things. Well, I'm not with him anymore. I don't have that kind of shit in my life anymore, and basically I'm not even freaking worried about it because it wasn't even anything fun. It was a shit show job, and it was just a waste of my time. The only reason why I got the job was because my dad was there. Because I couldn't go into the military or something because, I wasn't qualified for that, or I couldn't make it in because I guess I was stupid. I don't know what the hell was wrong with me. Couldn't pass the stupid ASVAB test. If you wanted to go into I think it's so stupid that if you want to go into the military, you have to pass a fucking test. Yeah, you have to pass a fucking test to go into the military. You just want to fucking go into the military because you want to go to the military because you have nothing better to do with your life and you want to blow shit up. That's what I wanted to do. Yeah. I wanted to blow shit up and protect our country. That's what I wanted to do. Yeah, because I heard that our country was ran over by all sorts of things and everything else. So, that's what it was. But, life's too short and everything's over and said and done with, so it's time to move on. Yeah, I wanted to be a Marine. Yes, I wanted to be in the Marine Corps that everybody said. I wanted to be in the Marine Corps, and I wanted to be in the one that everybody says that they call jarheads, or they call them, they basically make them look like people in the Marine Corps. They basically make them look like, the Marines, all the armed forces, every single one of them are hardworking people. And I respect everybody who's in the military, and I respect anybody who's in any of the armed forces. But I love the Marines. I wanted to be in the Marines because they look like the best of the best. They look like the elite. They look like they were, cool because, they had a lot of cool things going on in the Marines. And I wanted to be a Marine. But the only thing that I could ever do to pass the ASVAB test was to be, I got a 46 on my ASVAB test. Because the one thing is, I got test anxiety. I don't like sitting down for a very long time reading, nonsense and stupid questions and all this other shit. So I would just answer the questions the way that I wanted to. I would just, circle in the letters and do what I wanted to do. And when I did the ASVAB test, I got a 46 when I went to MEPS. Yeah, that's what I got. Never got to be an American soldier because I fucked up. I guess you could say I was a waste of a waste of time. But the reasoning is because I got test anxiety. I don't like sitting in a place, in a room, while other people are going 100 miles an hour because they know what they want to do. And then they get done before I do. So I'm thinking, well, why can't I be like that person? Why can't I get done and go sit around and just, waste, and go sit outside and be away from all this stuff and not think, like so much to where my brain hurts all the time. I don't like doing things where you sit down and have to think and 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 think all the time. When I drive this bus, the thing is the light red or is the light green? That's all I have to worry about. Is there 10 passengers on my bus? Do I have room for all 10 of these people? Yes, I do. But I also have to drive 50 miles an hour because the sign says 50 miles an hour. So I'm only allowed to go 54 because we can only go 4 miles over the speed limit according to our cameras on our vans. So the thing is that my mind is working at 8,000 miles an hour and my reaction time is really fast. I have a great reaction time. I have a reaction time of an F1 race car driver. So look that up. That's about how fast my reaction time is. Is like that. Is seriously like that. That's what I do. Because I'm constantly always looking and doing things and watching so that I don't get myself into trouble. Because I'm also one of these kind of people who don't like to be yelled at. Meaning that if you sit there and you freaking harp on me and you yell at me all the freaking time, I'm going to tell you to go fuck yourself. Because I don't need to be yelled at. For some odd reason, I was always yelled at all the time by my parents or by my teachers, by everything, and that made me hate a lot of people. And that's one of the things that I don't like doing, is I never like to yell at somebody. I don't like to fight with anybody because I don't understand why you have to yell at somebody to get them to do something. Why can't you just say, hey, what's wrong? What's going on? Why do you have to be so, what is your problem? Why do you gotta fucking do that? Why you can't shoot a free throw? What's your problem? That's exactly what my dad used to do to me all the time. Did I think anything was wrong of it? Yeah, I thought I was a fucking failure. Because I thought that I was a loser. I thought I was a moron, a douchebag. Because I wasn't like the other kids. And that's why I'm the way that I am. I'm always quiet, alone, and fucked up all the time, is because I always thought that I was messing up everything in my parents' life. But then I realized to myself that, what? I can train myself to be away from all that and not worry about that and not have that kind of a lifestyle. Because I can do what I want to do. Because I can change the way things are. I can change the way things are. I can change the way that people react to me. So that's how I am now. I kind of just let it go out the window. And I just let myself be myself. Which is something that I've been doing for the past couple of years of my life, is I've basically realized to myself that if you want something to go your way, you have to think about it. You have to think about it and make sure, you have to think about it. You have to think about it and assess the situation so that you don't come off as a moron or an idiot. And make it so that it's something that makes you feel good about yourself. And that's what I do nowadays. I don't sit here and let myself get worked up on things anymore, because I try to find a way to make people want to respect me, want to understand me. I make people want to like me. And so I let them tell me things about them, and I get to know them instead of assuming things. Because some of the times people assume things all the time before they even get to know somebody. Yeah. And that's what I do now, is I just basically sit there and, let them talk and say what they got to say, and then I start talking. I don't know what ever happened in my life to be the person that I was. I mean, when I was at Loudoun County High School, I tried out for the basketball team. And we had a coach named Mr. Barnes and Mr. Harris. Mr. Harris looked at me right away, and the first thing he said about me, and I was kind of upset about this, I looked at him and he said, well, I'm not going to let you play on the basketball team because, you're a white kid. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, you're a white kid. And I was like, and this is when I first started being in the school. This is when I first moved to, when I moved to Loudoun County High School. I wanted to play basketball. Because, see, when I lived in Fairfax, I used to always go outside and shoot shoot baskets. But I always thought that I was going to be the next Michael Jordan, and I was going to dunk on everybody's ass because, they always say that white men can't jump, or they say that white men can't do anything. So you know what? I learned how to shoot three-pointers because one of the greatest white guys that was in basketball was Larry Bird. A curly-haired tall guy who was 6'7", or 6'9", or whatever, and he could shoot a three-pointer all day long. And people thought he was so cool. So you know what? I wanted to be Larry Bird. I didn't want to be Jordan. No. I didn't even want to play like Jordan. I just followed him because he played for a team that was kick-ass. Yeah. I mean, I didn't care if Michael Jordan was black or white. I didn't give a shit if he was, whatever. He was from North Carolina, and he was outstanding with a basketball. But the thing is he also shot. He also shot from the three-pointer, free throw line. I mean, he was a small forward is what he was, or a shooting guard. Yeah, he was a shooting guard or a small forward. I don't really know what he was, but he was a great player, and I really liked playing it. But then I realized that, after my basketball coaches, the two douchebags that they were, the two assholes that they were, wouldn't let me play, I stopped playing basketball. And I got really upset, and I really started hating being around basketball because I thought, well, since I was, too white and I was too, stupid and dumb to step up and say anything, because, when teachers tell you something, you think, oh, I can't go around and say that these coaches did this kind of stuff, or you can't go around and say this kind of stuff because you don't want somebody to yell at you and rip you a new asshole because they don't want to be fact-checked, or they don't want to be thrown under the bus for being, wrong, or get fired for being racist. That happened at my school at Loudoun County High School, and it happened the first year that I went to school there, my sophomore year. I didn't go to school there my freshman year. I went to school there my sophomore year. Okay, I was in 10th grade. So, since I couldn't do that, I went and tried to play baseball. Since Mr. Harris was also the baseball coach, he was like, oh, you used to play baseball in North Dakota. Well, they played baseball in North Dakota, don't they? And I'm like, yeah, they do. And he goes, isn't that where they have the cornfield, where they have the movie? And I was like, no, that's Iowa, you dumbass. I said, that's Iowa, not North Dakota. And he goes, oh, then you're probably not going to amount to nothing. But you can try out anyway. And I tried out, went to, baseball tryouts, and I did the best I can. And I played, and I, busted my ass every day after going to school and being in classes all the damn time, and then trying to go to baseball practice after school was over. But I was always, in detention, or I was always late for baseball practice because I always had African American students saying stupid shit about me for being from North Dakota, saying that my family had slaves on their farm and everything else, because the population of North Dakota didn't have a lot of African American people. So they were like sitting there making fun of me and always telling on or picking on me because I was from North Dakota. So what did I do? Kick the shit out of them, because the thing is I didn't like, where they came from, or I didn't like how they talked down about where I came from. So I would get in detention, or I would get put in after school detention, never told my parents about it, because the thing is I was being bullied. I was being treated like garbage because I was from North Dakota. I was from North Dakota. But if I was from Chicago, or if I was from Florida or Georgia or someplace like that, I would have been accepted. I would have been perfectly fine. But North Dakota, so different than everybody else. That's exactly how they made me feel when I went to school in Virginia. I was bullied in school. So I couldn't make the baseball team. So I didn't make the baseball team. So the only thing that was left was football. And, okay, so I met these douchebag-ass coaches, Coach McManus, Coach Belichick, Coach Self, and Coach Sirian, or some shit like that. Coach McManus was this coach that basically had a big, huge fucking head. And Coach Belichick was kind of the same thing. They both had this big kind of head, like, that they couldn't shove it up anybody's ass because it was so big that they were always out there trying to win titles all the time. It was basically like Bud Kilmer, the coach from Varsity Blues. That's exactly what Coach McManus was like. He was such an asshole to everybody. He treated people like shit. And if he found out that you were on something, so like he basically looked to see if I was on like Ritalin. So I was on Ritalin in school. So he basically said to me that he was like, well, you can play football for us. So did you play 9-man or 11-man in North Dakota? And I said, well, I just played defensive end and I ran around, looked like a fucking idiot and tackled people. That's all I did. Because I didn't really give a shit, because I didn't really want to do anything. I just wanted to go to school, but you weren't considered shit if you didn't play football or were in track or anything or played basketball. But every damn sport I've ever tried to play at this dumb school in Loudoun County, Virginia, because I didn't want to go to school in Virginia, okay? I didn't want to go to school in Virginia. You let Krista and Katie go to school in Virginia, or you let Katie and Krista go to school in North Dakota, but you made my ass go all the way to Virginia, and I got treated like shit there, because I was from North Dakota, and I was treated so shitty in school, but I never told you guys, because the thing is that I could never tell you guys anything, because you always basically said to me that I was trying to get attention, that I was trying to, pass up things all the time, like I was a bad person, or like I was having, so much for being bullied and so much for being this. That's why I turned out the way that I am. That's why I turned out the way I am. Is because I was bullied in school. I was treated like garbage. I was fucking made to, just accept the fact that nobody gave a shit about what I believed in and nobody cared. So basically I just went and fucking said, okay, this is how it's going to be. I'm just going to accept it and go to fucking work and be miserable all the time. Or go to school and be miserable all the time and sit in a homeroom with a homeroom teacher who thought I needed to be put in with the special kids. So I hung out with a kid named Mongo and another kid who was like, who had a paper, or he put a cone on top of his head so he didn't hurt himself when he was sitting there smashing his head against the freaking wall all the time, and he was licking the walls. I didn't know what was wrong with him. So I just basically, like, said whatever. You know? And, I wasn't trying to, say anything. But I just went to school and basically got through whatever the hell I needed to do. That's why I got a job. Was because, one, I wanted to go get jobs so that I could make money so I could get the hell out of there. Because I never wanted to be in Virginia. I never wanted to be there. The only reason why we lived there was because Dad, couldn't fly back and forth between, Virginia and, North Dakota to see Mom all the time. That's what I thought it was about. That's what I thought it was. And I guess I was wrong. I guess I don't really know what I'm talking about. But I never liked Virginia at all. I never liked it. I mean, I met people, and when I was around people, I was actually happy. Like when I met Brian Sullivan basically fucking, saved my entire life. Because the thing is that when I met him, I felt like I was cool. I felt like I was, part of the thing. But the only reason why I felt like I was cool because also I had a car. So I thought, having a car was cool. But, it really wasn't because I had a Neon and I didn't have I had an 86 Chevy Nova and then I had a Neon. So I wasn't really that great of a kid, because all these other kids had Mustangs and Camaros and their parents were loaded. And my parents just, tried what they, tried their best. But it's all good. I don't really care. I mean, that's over in the past and done with. But it's affected me to the point where this is the reason why I'm the way that I am. I'm a 45-year-old person who wants to do something to where people, love and respect me as KamoKlauZ. That's why I do KamoKlauZ. And that's why I am the way that I am. But the thing is that I feel like that's the only way that I'm ever going to be accepted is if I do something that people like. So that's why I play KamoKlauZ. Yeah. And that's why I don't want to be associated with Cranings anymore or, be a part of that name is because the thing is I see all this stuff that tells me that I'm a Craning and I don't even feel like a Craning. I don't even feel like I matter anymore. You want to know something? The only people that made me feel like I mattered when I was a Craning was Grandma Marge. Yeah. I tell people that Grandma Marge was one of the greatest ladies in the entire world, and she worked for Senator Barry Goldwater, and she was really cool. Because in my mind, she was really cool, but, I don't really know the legacy of Grandma. I don't really know what Grandma Marge was all about. The only person who really knows a lot of things about Grandma is you, Dad. I mean, is my dad. And Keith and David. But I don't even know Uncle Keith anymore because he doesn't talk much anymore. He's, not even, he's probably going to end up dying and I'm never going to know that he died because my parents are going to be like, oh, I call them one day and they'll be like, oh yeah, Uncle Keith died. Oh great, when's the funeral? Because, I can call them and stuff and talk to them. But the thing is the reason why I don't talk to them is because I don't know what to say to them. I don't know what to talk to them about. Because I don't know if I'm on that kind of level with my family. Like, I don't know what I can talk to Carrie about. I don't know what I can talk to Maria about. I don't know what I can talk to Kim about. Because the thing is that we're so destined, or we're so different from each other. Yeah. Like, the only thing that I've ever seen anybody really get excited about or post anything about is Jameson. Which I know he's going through a lot of shit. Because he's got all these surgeries and stuff that he's doing. And that's a really big thing. And I feel sorry. I feel bad for him for having to go through this. And I'm hoping that someday all this will be behind him and he will grow up and be a normal boy. Yes. But the one thing that I've always been just always on the back burner because I don't even know what I can talk to my family about. Because sometimes I try to talk to Katie, I try to talk to my sister, and we always turn around and yell and scream at each other because I say something that she finds to be toxic or something that just is totally out there, and I don't have anything to say because I don't know much, because it's not something that is around my life. Like, I don't really give a shit about politics. Like, I really don't fucking care for anybody. I don't care for Trump, and I don't care for Biden. I don't care for anything. I just follow what the TV says. But the TV's full of shit too all the time. I mean, so it makes me make my own assumption. But I have my own opinion, but I guess my opinion doesn't matter. I say something, and then instantaneously I'm bombarded by, oh, you're this, or you're that, or you're this, or you're a hypocrite, or you're a Nazi, or you're this. And I'm like, dude, I'm Jack. That's all I am. Leave me the fuck alone, you know? But, you know, I'm just Jack. That's all I am, you know? And the thing is that, you know, I don't know what to expect anymore. I don't really know what kind of a world we live in anymore. All I know is I come to work, I put in 12 to 10 hour days. I work really, really hard for what I love doing, and that's driving for Groom Transportation and getting my passengers to where they feel safe and secure, and then somebody else takes them to the airport, or I drive them to where they need to go to because this is what I like to do. But the thing is that I'm not trying to win a popularity contest. I'm not trying to win anybody's love. I just don't want people to hate me. Yeah. I don't want people to say bad things about me. I don't want people to talk down about me. I don't want people to, I want people to know the facts about me before they go ahead and bash me. Because when I got to Loudoun County High School, everybody bashed me before they got to know me. And then once they got to know me, oh, I was a really cool guy. At least that's what some of my friends told me. But where are my friends now? Like, where are the people that, that I talk to all the time? I only talk to about 3 or 4 people that actually really matter in my life. And one of them is Brian Sullivan. Yeah, Brian Sullivan is one of the coolest people in my life. Chance Putski used to be one of the coolest people in my life, but his ass decided to go all political and hate on me when I started talking down about his mom. But see, Chance's mom ripped me a new asshole because she didn't like my political views, because she thought that I was a Trump supporter, but she wouldn't even let me explain myself. Because I even told her, I don't really give a shit about politics. And she was like, oh, that's something that a Trump supporter says. And I'm like, shut up. I don't care about politics. Politics ruins people's lives, and so does religion. So I don't talk about religion and politics because I don't care. I don't give a shit that I just go out and buy a whole bunch of eggs, and then when people sit there and go, why are you buying 60 eggs? And I'm like, because I like to eat eggs. That's my own fucking opinion. why I like eggs. I don't really give a shit what you think of my ass. Go fuck yourself. But the one thing that you have to understand, and this is my final thought, everybody's entitled to their own opinion about everything. They have their own opinions on life. They have their own opinions on everything. On toast, on bread, on cereal. And right now, the world is so one-sided about what this guy is doing in the house right now. But I don't care. I don't care. You may care, but I don't. But if I don't agree with what you say, and I don't agree with what you're talking about, if I don't know what to say and I say something that is totally off kilter, and I say, well, I'm not interested in it, then don't bash me don't bash me and say things that aren't true. I just wish the world could walk up to each other, or people in this world could walk up to each other and give somebody a hug and not be judged or not be called, a word, or called gay or faggot or asshole or douchebag or weird, I wish that we weren't so mean to each other. Yes. I wish that we would just get up in the morning, see our neighbor, and say hi. Just say good morning or good afternoon, like it is in Disney movies, like when Belle's walking down the road and it's like, bonjour, 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 bonjour. That's what it should be. It shouldn't be, oh, hi, my name is Jack. Fuck off, asshole, I got a boyfriend. That's how it was when I first moved into my apartment. My next door neighbor, she lives in apartment 4. She's a really nice looking girl. And I met her for the first time. And the first thing she said to me was, fuck off, asshole, I have a boyfriend. And I was like, okay, fine, fuck you then too. I'll sit over in my apartment and want to blow myself away because nobody fucking likes me here. And then I have 2 crackhead meth heads that live in the apartment 5. And they stole they stole this plastic floor so my chair could roll around on my computer desk. And I went to ask them about it. And they were like, why are you assuming? Why are you assuming that we sold it for meth? Why are you assuming that we did this for that? And I'm like, because people in the neighborhood have said that you guys have stole people's stuff. That's why I don't buy anything anymore. That's why I send all my shit to my mom and dad's house, because I don't want anybody to steal any more of my packages. Because all I'm trying to do is fucking get mail, that comes to my house, or a package that comes to my house, and not get fucking stolen. Because everybody in my fucking apartment complex is a greedy fuck. That's why I send packages to work. Or try to send packages to work. Because I don't want my shit stolen. But I don't even know where to fucking send anything anymore. That's why I don't buy stuff. That's why I drive places all over the world or all over town and fucking go to places and be like, I might as well just buy the shit, because ever having it sent to my house, it'll just get fucking stolen. So, my final thought is basically, I just wish that people would start to love each other again. And just stop with all the bullshit and diversity and hating on everybody. And just, and start understanding that people in this world need to love each other. Because we don't need wars. No, we don't need wars. We don't need tariffs. We don't need all this other shit. We just need to be able to take care and support each other and just live our lives. Yeah. But that's pretty much all I got to say about that. So, I hope you guys have a great night, and I'll talk to you later. This has been JakKlauZ, out.